I'm Melinda. Standing here, looking at the chaos in the grand ballroom, I can't help but think back to how it all started. The Carters, with their false sense of superiority, thought they could crush me and my sister, but little did they know, they were about to face the consequences of their arrogance. It all began at my sister Lily's rehearsal dinner. The atmosphere was thick with tension as I entered the private dining room of the city's most exclusive restaurant. Dr. Lawrence Thompson and his wife, Victoria, were the self-proclaimed royalty of the medical community. Their family had been in the medical field for generations, and they never missed an opportunity to flaunt their status. I wore a simple black sheath dress I'd bought a few years ago. I preferred a modest life, but to Victoria, my lack of designer labels was an insult to her high society aesthetic. As I took my seat at the long mahogany table, my eyes fell on the place card in front of me. Instead of sister or maid of honor, it read Melinda, the bride's annoying freeloader. Across the table, Lawrence leaned back in his leather chair and let out a booming laugh. His friends and family joined in, chuckling behind their crystal water glasses. He then pulled out a folded piece of paper and tossed it across the table. "Since you're eating on my dime tonight, Melinda, you can make yourself useful. That's the wine bill for the VIP cocktail hour, $2,500. A freeloader should at least pay the tip, or better yet, cover the tab," he sneered. I didn't let his words get to me. I calmly slid the receipt back across the table until it rested in front of his plate. "I don't pay for cheap wine, Lawrence," I said, keeping my voice level. The laughter around the table stopped instantly. Victoria slammed her manicured hand on the table. "How dare you speak to my husband that way? You're nothing but a low-income burden on my son, Ethan. Lily is lucky we're even allowing her to marry into our family. We're funding this entire $300,000 wedding. You show up here in a cheap dress, bringing nothing but embarrassment," she hissed. What they didn't know was that the $300,000 invoice for the venue, catering, and flowers had already been paid in full, and it wasn't Lawrence who paid it. I looked at Ethan, the groom, sitting next to Lily. He kept his eyes glued to his plate, too much of a coward to defend the woman who had practically raised his future bride. When our parents, Mark and Lisa, abandoned us 10 years ago, I worked 3 grueling jobs to ensure Lily never had to worry about a thing. I put her through medical school so she could become the brilliant surgical resident she was today. Ethan knew my sacrifices, yet he sat in silence while his parents publicly humiliated me. "You really believe your money makes you untouchable?" I said quietly to Victoria, maintaining eye contact. She smirked and lifted her chin. "In this world, money is everything, darling, and you have none." I smiled back. "You're absolutely right, Victoria. Money does talk, and by the end of this wedding weekend, you'll learn who holds the real power." Just then, Lily, usually so calm in the high-pressure environment of the hospital operating room, slammed her champagne flute down with such force that I was surprised the stem didn't shatter. Her face was flushed with rage as she stood up and ripped the humiliating place card in half, throwing the pieces onto Lawrence's expensive silk tie. "Don't ever speak to my sister that way again. She's not a freeloader." "She's the reason I'm here today," Lily demanded. The room went dead silent. Ethan reached out to grab Lily's arm, whispering for her to sit down, but she yanked her arm out of his grasp. Victoria slowly stood up, picked up her full glass of red wine, and walked around the table to Lily. With a flick of her wrist, she spilled the wine across Lily's pristine white silk rehearsal dress. "You need to learn your place, little girl. You're still just a charity case. We're funding this wedding, and you'll show respect," she whispered venomously. I stepped forward, placing myself between Lily and Victoria. "Don't ever touch my sister again," I said, my voice low but sharp. Victoria took a half a step back, but quickly recovered, crossing her arms defensively. Ethan then turned on Lily, saying she was causing a scene and that his mother had just had an accident. He tried to gaslight her, saying his parents were under a lot of pressure and had gone into debt to pay for the wedding. But I knew the truth. Lawrence and Victoria hadn't spent a single dime on this wedding. I let out a mocking laugh and stepped closer to Ethan. Massive debt, Ethan? Are you sure your father is the one paying the event planner? I asked. Ethan looked confused and glanced at his father, who suddenly looked very uncomfortable. Lawrence then lost his temper. He slammed his fists on the table and roared, "Shut your mouth. I'm the one writing the checks for this weekend. You'll be dragged out of here." He called for the general manager. Within seconds, the manager walked in. To everyone's shock, he walked right past Lawrence and bowed deeply to me. "Ms. Melinda, is everything all right? Do you need assistance with these guests?" he asked. The collective gasp from the Thompson family was deafening. Lawrence's face turned pale, and he stammered, "What kind of game are you playing? How do you know the manager?" Victoria sneered, "You're clearly sleeping with the staff to get special treatment." Lily gasped and stepped forward to defend me. But Ethan just pulled at Lily's arm, telling her to let it go. The rest of the rehearsal dinner passed in an icy silence. As we left the restaurant, Victoria followed me into the parking lot. "You think you won something tonight? Tomorrow is about my son and my family. I'll make sure you're cropped out of all the wedding photos," she hissed. I just smiled and replied, "Make sure you get my good side, Victoria." I got into my car and drove away, but I knew it was far from over. I reached out to my lead corporate attorney and instructed him to prepare the commercial eviction notice for the Thompson Premium Surgery Center. I wanted it finalized and ready to be served by 7 p.m. The next day. The next morning, I arrived at the bridal suite. Lily was nowhere to be seen, but Victoria was sitting on the sofa, sipping champagne. She smirked when I entered. "Good morning, Melinda. You're just in time to get dressed." I walked towards the garment rack where our dresses were hung. My custom-made bridesmaid dress was in shreds. Someone had taken scissors to it. Victoria feigned surprise. "Oh dear, it seems the alterations department made a terrible error. I've found you a maid's uniform. It suits your background," she said condescendingly. I walked over to her and said calmly, "You're not the first person who thought they could break me by destroying my things. The last time, it was my own mother. She smashed my laptop because she wanted the money I'd saved. But I pressed charges and had her arrested. You're playing a dangerous game, Victoria, and you have no idea what the stakes are." I then called my couture designer and arranged for a backup dress to be delivered in 20 minutes. Exactly 20 minutes later, a woman arrived with a stunning midnight blue silk gown worth $45,000. Victoria's jaw dropped when she saw it. Before she could process what was happening, my parents, Mark and Lisa, walked into the room. They had been out of our lives for 10 years, but Lawrence had paid them $10,000 to show up and play the part of loving parents. Lily was shocked and horrified. She screamed at them to leave. Lawrence then walked in, looking pleased with himself. He told us that a real family has a mother and a father, and that I should be grateful he'd brought our parents here. I looked him in the eye and asked, "Where did you get the $10,000? You claim to be paying for this wedding, but I have evidence that says otherwise." I played an audio recording of Lawrence begging for an extension on his debts, saying his credit cards were maxed out and he couldn't afford the catering deposit. Lawrence's face turned gray. His entire family looked in shock. Just then, the estate's head coordinator and 2 police officers walked in. They served Lawrence with a restraining order, stating that the anonymous benefactor who had paid the $300,000 invoice had banned him from the bridal suite and other private areas. A short while later, Ethan stormed into the room, furious. He blamed me for everything and gave Lily an ultimatum: either tell me to leave or there would be no wedding. Lily stood up, her eyes filled with disbelief. "You're defending your parents who have treated us like garbage." "I won't be a part of this," she said. Victoria then tried to force Lily to sign a prenuptial agreement. It was a trap, with unfair terms that would strip Lily of her rights. I tore up the agreement, and Ethan lashed out at me, calling me a jealous, bitter woman. I pulled out a thick manila envelope and dropped it on the vanity. "If you're so wealthy and successful, Ethan, open this envelope and explain what's inside," I said. I opened the envelope and spread out financial documents that showed Ethan was drowning in debt. He had been embezzling funds from the hospital's pediatric research department for the past 18 months to pay for his luxury lifestyle and a penthouse for his mistress. Lily was heartbroken but also filled with disgust. She removed her engagement ring and dropped it into a glass of champagne. "There is no wedding today. I'd rather scrub floors than be your wife," she said. Just then, my parents, who had been lurking outside, rushed in demanding their $10,000. A fight broke out between them and the Thompsons. I decided it was time to address the wedding reception. I walked into the grand ballroom and took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, there will be no wedding today. My sister has discovered that her fiancé, Ethan, has been living a fraudulent double life. He's embezzled money from the hospital and has a mistress." The room erupted in shock. Lawrence and Victoria rushed in, trying to deny everything and calling me a liar. But I was ready. I used a remote control to turn on the LED screens behind the stage, displaying the master commercial lease agreement for the Thompson Premium Surgery Center. I revealed that I was the founder and CEO of Apex Healthcare Properties, the anonymous landlord. I informed them that their lease was expiring that night at midnight and that I was denying their renewal request. The major investors in the surgery center, who had been misled by Lawrence, were furious. They demanded their money back and cut ties with the Thompsons. The Thompsons' world came crashing down. Lawrence's clinic was on the verge of bankruptcy, Ethan's medical license was revoked, and he faced federal charges. Victoria lost her social status, her country club memberships, and her luxury car. Lily and I watched as the Thompsons were escorted out of the ballroom. Our parents were also removed from the premises when they tried to get money from me. After the chaos, Lily and I stepped outside for some air. She broke down, apologizing for letting them treat me badly. I comforted her, telling her that she had shown incredible strength by walking away from Ethan. 6 months later, the seasons had changed, and so had our lives. The Thompsons' downfall was a cautionary tale in the medical community. I had kept my word about the commercial lease. The Thompson Premium Surgery Center was shut down, and Lawrence was reduced to begging for consulting shifts at low-tier urgent care facilities. Ethan was in a federal holding facility, awaiting his prison sentence. His mistress had abandoned him as soon as his bank accounts were frozen. Victoria was now living in a small apartment on the outskirts of town, avoiding eye contact with the people she once looked down on. Meanwhile, Lily and I were building something real. I had given Lily the keys to a brand new medical clinic, the Hope City Women's Clinic, located in the heart of the city. It was a state-of-the-art facility, and I had covered all the costs. At the grand opening of the clinic, there was a joyful crowd. Lily was radiant, no longer the terrified medical resident desperate for validation. She cut the red ribbon and said, "This is for the women who were told they were not enough. This is for the girls who had to build their own tables." We had walked through fire, but we had emerged stronger. We didn't need the Thompsons' money or their validation. We had each other and the unshakable truth. Have you ever been underestimated by people who thought a fancy title made them better? Let me know how you proved them wrong in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you believe karma never misses an address. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that real power comes from knowing who you are and never letting a toxic narcissist dictate your worth. Thank you for watching our journey. Stay strong, protect your peace, and always keep your receipts. I'll see you in the next one.